Hi everyone, good evening. I'm really happy to be here today. I'm mostly going to be speaking about the associations of nutrition and cancer, and I request you to hold your questions till the end because we are going to have enough time to have a rich discussion and hopefully be able to answer a lot of your questions. Are we good? So as Rachel said, I'm probably going to stand here so you can see me a little bit better. But as Rachel said, I'm an associate professor of nutrition and public health here at New York University. And just to give you a brief background, can we go back? Yes. Here. Okay. I'm sorry about that. So just to give you a brief background, I kind of started my career back in India, where I lived for the most part of my life before I came here, as a clinical dietitian who worked basically at the bedside of cancer patients. And I got very interested in how nutrition both prevents cancer as well as is used in the management of cancer and prevents even recurrence or secondary cancers. And so when I came to the United States, I started studying and establishing a research program in nutrition and cancer. And I'm going to not speak as much about my own research, but just tell you what the word is out there from expert panel reports on various components of nutrition and foods. And really what I'm trying to focus on today is some of the confusion that exists in what to eat, right? The evidence is always changing and it's kind of confusing. So I want to start by saying that there is really only one good diet, whether it's diet for cancer, to prevent against cancer or cardiovascular disease or diabetes or obesity. There's only one healthy diet, okay? And I'm going to generally talk about diet to prevent cancer. I think I'm just most comfortable here. However, when people are undergoing, can you all see me and hear me? I was just trying to be out there because, okay. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yes. So I'm basically talking about cancer prevention, but please know that there are individual needs for people who are undergoing active treatment, whether you're in radiation or chemotherapy. Some of these things may or may not apply to you while you are on active treatment, because at that time you're taking care of some of the special needs that arise during treatment. So I'm just going to give you more generalized, principles of nutrition and how it relates to cancer. All right, so this is a recent picture from the latest dietary guidance that was released by the USDA, and it was a 108-page document, and the bottom line of this 108-page document is this diagram or this picture, which is supposed to be for public to understand that it's a simple message that about 2/3 of the food that you eat on a daily basis should actually come from plant origin. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit later about what plant origin means, but for now, I think it's important for you to understand that this is a very healthy dietary pattern when you combine fruits, vegetables, protein sources, dairy, grains, and oils. But I'm going to go into each of these and discuss some of the nuances of what is healthy and unhealthy within these food groups. Okay, so a plant-based diet basically has a lot of nutrients. It's packed with nutrients and in what is called phytochemicals, which help to repair some of the DNA which is damaged, which causes cancer actually. And it is not very high in calories. So if you look at the picture on the left and the right, you can see that unhealthier foods, they're packed in calories, but not they're not very nutritive. And you can see how little the food is in volume. A few chips or maybe a few French fries, mayo, all of this is typically not very rich in nutrition, but very dense in calories. And for the same amount of calories, you can eat a lot more healthier food. Okay. So plant-based diets, basically the more foods that you eat that come from plants and both fruits and vegetables are basically nutrient dense. And that's really what I want to drive home. And whether it's for obesity, cancer, diabetes, any of these, a plant-based diet is the only way to go. Okay, so now I'm actually going a little bit into each of the food groups. Carbohydrates, can somebody tell me what carbohydrates are? What does carbohydrate mean to you? Starches? And do you think starches are given a bad name?
Yeah.
A starch is good or a starch is bad?
Bad.
And this is kind of what I want to talk a little bit more about, because you can have the healthy and the unhealthy starches. You have the healthy and the unhealthy carbohydrates. And fruits and vegetables are actually part of the healthy carbohydrates. Okay, so in general, a rule of thumb, about 3 to 5 servings of vegetables should be consumed every day. And even after so much effort has been made, public health nutritionists are trying to promote fruits and vegetables. Regardless of socioeconomic status, most adults and children are unable to achieve the recommended amounts of fruits and vegetables. And we're trying to understand what those reasons are. But anyway, 3 to 5 servings of vegetables a day would mean anything equivalent to a baseball, roughly. That's how much I call a serving. I know you're not sitting there with calculators to calculate grams and calories, but this is a really good estimate of what you should be eating. And per baseball, which is kind of one serving, you have about 25 to 50 calories. And especially dark green, all the colorful vegetables, the greens and the oranges and the yellows are very important. And while fresh and whole is preferred, there are many ways to consume vegetables. Frozen is a good option, and I'm going to talk a little bit about preparation and packaging later. Basically, a really nice way to include more vegetables into your food is to mix it with pasta, to add vegetables to usual things that you wouldn't add. And actually we have Chef Sandy here, who's going to do the second part of the talk to actually give you more practical advice on how to do this. So maybe I'm going to leave it to her, but in general, try to be creative in how you add vegetables to various dishes, and it also adds some color, so it's more tempting to eat such food. Similarly, fruits should be 3 to 5 baseballs daily, which is about 50 to 60 calories per baseball. And I really want to tell you that juices, who thinks juicing it's a new fad, right? I'm going on a juice a detox diet for 3 days. What do you think about that? Is it good or is it no good? Okay, even then it's tempting. I think it's a really good marketing gimmick. People think juicing is detoxifying for whatever reason it is, but truth be told, juices, and depends what kind of juice. There's juice that is maybe a whole apple that's crushed and made into juice, and then you have the very clarified apple juice. So there's different types of juice, but juicing generally it's just not as healthy as most people believe it is. So ways to incorporate fruit, again, this is Sandy's, I don't want to steal her thunder, but try to eat more fruits as dessert, and also try to combine fruits with nuts or other creative ways. So what about grains? There's a new gluten-free fad. Do you think you need to be gluten-free? Do you think it's healthier? How many of you think gluten-free or not consuming whole grains is the healthier way to go? Right, and then if you have a problem with gluten, if you have an allergic reaction, if you have some issue with gluten, I think it's understandable to avoid gluten. But in general, there's no association in the literature or in research between gluten-free diets and cancer. And in fact, we encourage people to eat whole grains. And can you name some whole grains?
Brown rice.
Brown rice?
Oats.
Okay, yes. What about popcorn? Yeah, it's a whole grain, quinoa. There are different types of whole grains and a variety of whole grains that you can, again, creatively incorporate into your diet. And it does not have to be gluten-free unless you have a specific problem with gluten. So the value of whole grains is it's the whole package deal. When grains are processed in the industry, in the food industry, they actually strip them off of their outer coating, and it basically takes away all the B vitamins, some of the proteins, zinc, magnesium, all of these which are very important to DNA repair and growth of your cells and the normal growth of cells in the body. Okay, fiber is extremely important. There's been quite a strong connection between fiber, especially in colorectal cancer, and the reverse of which, diets which are high in meat have been associated somewhat with colorectal cancer. So again, fiber is important. And one way, how do you know if something has fiber or not? How many of you are actually label readers or bother to pay attention to that? Okay, most people don't have the time to do that. I don't myself. But what is worth doing is investing some time in the beginning to make note of, products or varieties that are high in fiber. All fruits and vegetables, these things don't come with labels, but they're perfectly, healthy foods, are very rich in fiber. But if you're consuming other commercial products that are available in the grocery store, it's probably worth it to just invest some time in noting what products are better than others, because I know that you're not going to have the time each time, and then probably repeating these products as you go grocery shopping on a continuous basis. But yes, the dietary fiber is very clearly listed on the labels, and it's a good idea to actually take a look at that. Okay, just speaking of labels, I just want to make sure that you know what the labels even mean or how to interpret some of this. I always look at ingredients. Okay, I know that those numbers are not very intuitive to most people, but look at the ingredients. In general, if you're not paying close attention to the numbers, at least know that the ingredients are listed they appear. For example, here this is whole grain wheat. That's the ingredient that is the largest volume in that food that you're purchasing. And the last ingredient, most of those are names that you cannot even pronounce. That's not even considered food. You know that's, I'm going to talk a little bit more about chemicals in the last part of my talk. But anything that you see at the end is a ingredient or a product which is in the least amount of quantity. So it goes from highest to lowest amount by volume when you read a label. Okay. And that's important because sometimes people will include, very tiny amounts of, say, some antioxidant, like a pomegranate or something, and then they'll market it and say, oh, this product has an antioxidant, but when you actually look at the ingredient list, it has very little. So it might say it has fiber, but you want to make sure that there's enough fiber for you. All right, so coming back to fruits and vegetables, why are fruits and vegetables so important? And I can't stop talking about it because we know time and again, every year when there's an assessment of fruits and vegetable and intake in the national population, regardless of socioeconomic status and race, both children and adults are falling short of how much they should be eating. Okay, so fruits and vegetables are important because they're a very good source of vitamins. They're healthy in all possible ways. They have fiber, they have antioxidants, they have phytochemicals and minerals. And I just said all these words that may or may not make sense to you. But mostly all of these help your cells to not develop cancer. It's like a tug of war, it's a yin-yang, there's an equilibrium that your cells are trying to keep there. And the minute you're depleted of certain important nutrients, such as vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, the cells sort of get pushed into this environment where they lack what they need to grow normally, and they sometimes can just spiral into the cancer process, basically. So there are many ways to eat fruits and vegetables. Not everybody is a fantastic chef like Sandy. I even didn't know how to chop vegetables when I first started cooking. But there are other ways to eat it, right? Some of them are prepared. They're fresh, pre-cut, frozen, or canned. And of course, there's nothing that beats fresh and whole, but there are other ways of eating it. I just want to caution you that packaging, there's been a lot in the literature where the environment epidemiologists and the nutrition people are sort of coming together to figure out what the industrially prepared and packaged foods are capable of contributing to the body. And I just want you to know that heating in plastics, storing in plastics, all of this leaches certain chemicals out and could actually, and has been implied in cancer process because in the cancer process because it messes up the hormones. These are endocrine disrupting chemicals called or EDCs, which messes up your hormones. So it's not only the food you're eating per se that's actually disturbing the equilibrium of your hormones or of your blood levels, but it's also some of these chemicals. And therefore, if you can avoid, as much as possible, if you can avoid processed foods with all those names that I showed you, which you can't pronounce in the labels, or packaged using plastics, etc. I'm sure that all of you have seen BPA-free, right? You've seen BPA-free. Why? Why is there a push for BPA free? Because BPA was one of the chemicals that were implied in the cancer process, but not only cancer, in increasing obesity, diabetes, anything where hormones might play a role, because these chemicals mess up the hormones. So I think just to be very clear that while you can have other forms of fruit, I mean, some of them are totally processed, some of them are minimally processed, so you should just be aware when you shop. But to have some form of fruit rather than none at all is very, very important. Okay, preparation, again, there are many ways to prepare it. You could grill, steam, have it raw, bake or roast, boil or saute. So this, you could prepare the same food of a vegetable or fruit in many different ways. And I just want to make a special note about grilling. Some of the literature has talked about how grilling, but it's not grilling in general. It's mostly grilling certain meats, actually, fleshy foods, can cause the charring of the meat, and this actually produces some carcinogens that could produce, the evidence is most for breast cancer, but it's also there for colorectal cancer. However, fruits and vegetables don't have the same ingredients in them as the meats do, and so grilling or charring of fruits and vegetables don't have the same carcinogenic impact. Okay, so I want to describe this to you a little bit. What are phytochemicals? All those lovely colors that you see. Are like you can have orange carrots and red carrots and purple carrots and beets and all the lovely colors that you see, the pigment that you see, the grapes, all of this comes from the wonderful phytochemicals, pomegranates, etc. Okay. So the body digests and uses them to repair cells, and they also have a certain protective effect. Like I told you, it's a yin-yang, so it sort of creates an environment where cells are able to normally grow and function. Okay, and they also are anti-inflammatory, because inflammation is implied in the cancer process. Longer periods of inflammation can push the equilibrium towards the cancer process. Okay, so I just want to tell you, the reason I keep talking about equilibrium is cancer is it's a chronic disease, right? It takes years sometimes, a long, long time, with multiple insults to actually develop. And I know this might sound a little frightening, but all of us have cancer cells in our body at some point, and the immune system and all these phytochemicals and antioxidants are just taking care of those cancer cells and eliminating them. And therefore, it's this equilibrium, when your body inside, there's an environment for extended periods of time which is going to favor the cancer process, then your body is not able to fight that anymore, and then it basically spirals into cancer. Okay, so I'm not going to go through each and every phytochemical over here, but you have my slides to take home. So it's just something for you to make note. The red color comes from lycopene in tomatoes, for example, and what it's capable of doing. So all these colorful foods, which also makes your dish look really exciting and makes your food tastier, actually play a very important role in the cancer process. So do antioxidants. It's just what I described. Okay. I already finished talking to you a little bit about juice. How many of you don't think twice about drinking juice because you think it's healthy?
It's too much sugar.
It's too much sugar. Yes, exactly right. So I want to, I rely a lot on national level data because it's very robust data, and it's collected in a very, very large sample of people across the nation from all 50 states of the United States. And I think hands down there's evidence that sugary beverages, including sweetened milk, like chocolate milk, because it's confusing. People are not sure whether sweetened yogurt and sweetened milk are healthy or unhealthy, right? And so most of the Americans are drinking a large proportion of their calories from frappuccinos, from coffee, tea. What are sugar-sweetened beverages according to you? Let me not say it. I want to hear it from you. Coffee, tea. Okay, I just said that. Coke. Sugary beverages. I don't want to necessarily use the word sugar-sweetened because they may be sugary without you sweetening it.
Vitamin water has too much sugar in it.
Excellent. All these sports drinks, vitamin waters, juices. That's why I changed what I said from sugar sweetened to sugary drinks. All kinds of juices. Okay, yes?
What about tea?
Yes, if you add sugar to it, it's a sugary, it's a sugar sweetened beverage. Yes. What else?
You should also mention these diet sodas. They even worse. They might not be very cancerous.
That's a great question, and if you could hold it to the end, because I do want to address it a little bit more. So please do ask me again. Yes?
Soy milk.
If it's sugar sweetened, then yes. Okay. So a large proportion of the sugars come from, as you can see here, from beverages and snacks and sweets. This is the sugar intake. And I really love this slide here because it shows you that Americans actually drink all day long. Maybe not everybody drinks beer, but you start your morning with a beverage, and basically you could have multiple beverages through the day. And I'm not saying to not drink beverages at all, but to just be cognizant and aware of what you're drinking, okay? And, June is Nutrition Month, and I always end up doing something fun for my kids in school. And this is a very popular in the nutrition world way of presenting sugar. And I think it really shocks them for the first time when they see things like this. They're not thinking about it so apparently when you just see, oh, okay, you're having 1 can of Coke. But when you actually see how much sugar in terms of sugar cubes is in each of these things, it's really shocking. And evidence has talked about the fact that, if you have cereal and you want it sweet, and if you pour sugar on it to make it sweet, the amount of sugar that you actually end up adding is still a lot lesser than if you went and got Frosted Flakes. So let me ask you this. Do you think Frosted Flakes is a dessert, or is it a cereal? It's dessert, based on the amount of sugar that it has. Okay, I also want to address sugar and high fructose corn syrup, because now, look at Snapple, very smartly says, now we have sugar, no high fructose corn syrup. And the new rage here is agave, okay? So it's all the same as far as your body is concerned. High fructose corn syrup is a little bit worse than sugar in the way it's metabolized, but really for your body, sugar is bad, high fructose corn syrup is worse, and agave it's no better. Okay, so it's really marketing, like the way everything is packaged and marketed really, really makes a difference. Okay, this is just me showing you the guidelines again for those who are interested in the amount that of fruits and vegetables that people are actually consuming. The recommended limit is in the blue for all ages. Each blue bar is for a separate age group. And all I need you to see is that the blue is what's recommended and the orange is what people are actually consuming. And it's low regardless of whether people can afford to or not. It's just not preferred. Either people are not cooking. For some people, it's an access issue. Whatever it might be, people are just not eating enough vegetables, fruits. And this is too much of refined grains as compared to whole grains. They're eating, the average refined grain is in orange. The recommended is blue for all ages. And a whole grain intake is green. And so as you can see, there's a very big discrepancy. No matter how much public health nutrition effort has been made, people are still not making this recommendation. The intake of added sugars is too high. The USDA for the first time has come out and explicitly said that it should be less than 10% of total calories, but we're really not ready for that right now, because a lot of products that you totally think have no sugar have actually a lot of sugar, including tomato soup that is canned and available in the market, pasta sauce, breads. Bread doesn't have as much, but they need to add sugar. Sometimes you have little more sweetened bread, even though it's not a sweet bread. Okay, so let's switch to dairy. And there is a little bit of confusion in the literature about dairy, but because now there's new evidence coming out that is actually talking about how whole milk might be more beneficial. But before we know that, right, that there is a bunch of research going on there. The guidelines are talking about focusing on low-fat or non-fat milk, but there is a controversy. So I stay tuned for what comes out of there. And And then again here, this slide just talks about what a portion of milk or yogurt would be. And again, it's not just milk or yogurt. It cannot be sweetened milk or sweetened yogurt because it beats the purpose, right? So again, there's healthier and unhealthier kind of dairy. And you really need to be aware of, in all the food groups, there's healthier and unhealthier varieties, right? Similarly, not all fats are created equal. So fats have been given a bad name, but your body cannot survive without fat. You need a certain amount for certain functions that need to be accomplished. All your cell membranes are coated with fat, and a certain amount is required. However, again, fat is not fat. You have some healthier fats and some unhealthier fats. So as you might know this already, saturated fats and trans fats are among the unhealthier fats. And if you don't know if a product, how much of it a product contains, you can look at the label. Trans fats are generally banned, and if a product is made in the United States, it's unlikely that you'll find trans fats. But saturated fats would vary, and this is where a little bit of personal responsibility comes in, where you could actually take a look at the label. Okay, but the healthier fats are monounsaturated fats and polyunsaturated fats. If this is terminology, I'll tell you in a second what I mean. Monounsaturated fats are, does anyone want to say? What's the source of monounsaturated fats? Okay, but specifically what kind of oil? I get this question a lot. What? Yes, olive oil. And Sandy, correct me if I'm wrong, but in my understanding is that olive oil is not designed, for example, to for very high temperature cooking, like Chinese. Always, right. But people are making a mistake actually by using olive oil in everything because it's supposed to be the healthier fat, even if it's high temperature cooking, which actually beats the purpose and might do more harm than good. So that's why use olive oil when it's appropriate, and use the other type of fat, which is polyunsaturated fat, which is vegetable oil, when you're cooking and such. Yes, that's vegetable oil. That's polyunsaturated fat. And a combination of these is important. And you can also consume saturated fat, but in not in very high amounts. So that's why I'm saying you could use a pat of butter on your toast. Everything in moderation and according to the guidelines is permitted, because the guidelines are made from weeks and months of reviewing evidence and literature, and it's really evidence-based. And then they simplify it in one page or in one diagram like I showed you for the public. Okay, and omega-3 fatty acids are, for vegetarians, is found in nuts, especially walnuts, and in fish, fatty fish. But there are ways to get it, there's small amounts in milk and dairy, and like I said, walnuts for the vegetarians. And also your body is capable of making some from raw materials that it receives from some of the foods. But I really do want you to understand and know that some amount of fat is really important for your body. So here is the concept of plate makeover that's common in the nutrition world, where you can still have your burger or your sandwich or the ingredients in or the food components that you are that you love, but if it's cooked correctly and if it's combined, if it's had in the right portion size, you could actually make some lovely plate makeovers, where if you can see, the first one is chicken and French fries, but if you oven bake or bake your chicken, or this is just an example where the chicken has been replaced with fish sticks. If you creatively prepare your meals, you can actually feel as full and have a beautiful looking, colorful meal for half the calories. Okay, so these are just two examples. The first one was white roll. Should you be having white roll? White bread. Okay, with French fries, and you could have a grape and cashew salad sandwich with raw carrots on whole grain bread. So just ideas of how you can transform unhealthy foods to healthy foods. It looks like it's the same amount of food, but it's half the calories. So there are many recipes available online for what they call plate makeovers, to give you ideas to prepare. You have to only prepare foods. You don't even have to necessarily cook it. But these options are available and easy, and with a little bit of planning, you can make some of these changes. So I do want to talk about the cost of eating healthy. Okay, so this slide very nicely shows that in $3, in the first scenario, you get like a couple apples and a few strawberries. I'm not even sure if $3 will get you that much. Okay, maybe you need $4 or something to get that. But look at the picture below. In the same $3, you could probably get 1,800 calories by eating junk. Now, for people who really on food stamps or who are food insecure or do not have access to the same access to foods as higher socioeconomic status, if they're not sure when and where their next meal would come from, if I was that person, what do you think I would buy? Would I spend $3 on 300 calories or $3 on 1,800 calories? It really makes sense to buy 1,800 calories, regardless of where they're coming from. And here is where I think that our system is flawed. This goes a little bit out of nutrition and talks more about food law and food policy, where we need to fix the system because there are about 17 million Americans who are documented and food insecure who have this problem of not being able to access, and not because we don't have enough food, just because of the distribution system. Okay, so it is much more expensive to eat healthy, and it is a trade-off. And I'm not sure how to fix that problem. I don't have the answers right now, but I'm just trying to show you. Before I go into other aspects, I also want to say, how many of you read calories when you purchase foods? Okay, what is the calorie labeling supposed to do? Sorry? No. I mean, why did the industry decide to label? I'm sorry? Education. So let's say you see something which is 600 calories versus 200 calories. What were they hoping would happen? That you would choose lower. But I'm poor, I can't afford it. What am I going to choose? If I'm going to get 600 calories for $1, doesn't even have to be poor, just the mentality, right? It's psychology. If I'm gonna get 600 calories for $1, it depends, unless you have a health condition or unless you're a nutrition person like me. But not most of the people are even noticing calories or understand what they mean or choosing based on calories. In fact, there is a large proportion of people who choose the other way around, and therefore evaluation of whether calorie labeling is working or not is telling us it's not working. Because now think about the person who doesn't have enough money to spend on that day to spend on food, and they're like, you know what, I don't care. For $1, if I'm getting 600 calories, I'm going to buy 600 calories compared to 50 calories for a side salad. So we're constantly, seeing that people are not eating enough fruits and vegetables year after year, decade after decade. Okay, I think this has been a continuous issue. But there are other reasons that we're trying to unravel as well. But I just want to point it out to you that calorie labeling is important from the health perspective. Sometimes it goes the other way. Anyway, what I personally study, this is my research at NYU, is to join the dots really between obesity, diabetes, some risk factors of heart disease, and how all of these eventually are connected with cancer. So most people, I call it the continuum of chronic diseases, because most people are first obese and they would tend to develop diabetes next. Both these advance to some form of heart disease or risk factors that precede heart disease. And I'm trying to study and develop, and I've established a research program and developed a research agenda to actually systematically study how all of these connect with cancer. So obesity has been an established risk factor for cancer, and one of the reasons being, there are many hypothesized reasons actually, but what I do want to say is that there's higher amount of inflammation in the body of obese people for long periods of time. And remember I talked about the tug of war? So what happens when there's an unfavorable environment within the body for longer periods of time? Because your fat cells are not just sitting around, but they're actively producing at least 50 to 60 chemicals that we know of now at this point that help your cancer cells actually grow. Not only do they're bathing in an environment of inflammation, but they also have other factors that will help the blood vessels actually get to the cancer cells so that the nutrients can get to the cancer cell, etc. So obesity has for many reasons been hypothesized to increase the risk of all kinds of cancers except lung and skin, many cancers except lung and skin. And I lost my chain of thought. And as well as cancer recurrence, yes. So even if you're obese after your first cancer, to keep the weight low still makes a lot of sense so that you don't have a second episode. So coming back to the world of nutrition, there's been, my doctoral student actually published a lot on diet variety and obesity. So in countries where there isn't enough food access, diet variety is encouraged, right? You don't want them to only eat yams and the staple food or just the rice every day, every meal. But in a country like the United States, where you can actually walk into a grocery store and you have, forget about variety, there's so much variety, even within one food group. You have 25 types of breads or more. You have 10 types of just M&Ms, right? You can choose from so much. And what happens to you when you go for a buffet? What's your tendency? What would you do? Oh, I want a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this. So basically, that's the same concept about dietary variety in a context of a developed country like the United States. And so we did a lot of work on looking at the associations of dietary variety and obesity, and it actually was, just what you expect. More dietary variety in people's foods was associated with increased obesity. And so there are other factors also that have changed besides for access to food and diet variety over the past 20 years. And I'm sure you've seen, many of you might have seen this, but I just want you to notice, and I didn't even bring all the pictures that I have, but I just want you to notice that the portion sizes of everything is larger, okay? With almost 200 to 300 or more calories per increment in portion, in the portion size, right? So I could give you examples of popcorn and pizza slices and cheesecake slices, you name it, it's a much bigger portion. So talking about weight, again, it's not only the weight and how much you weigh, but even where the weight is distributed. Weight distribution has patterns of weight distribution have also been associated with cancer and cancer recurrence. So carrying your weight around the abdominal region is more detrimental as compared to having heavier hips. And this is typically called the apple and the pear-shaped obesity. Okay. So let's talk about physical activity, because you can't talk about weight and energy and calories and food without talking about physical activity. And the IT world has shaped physical activity or / the lack of physical activity in a way that we cannot even keep up with. So I just I think you could use your clickers right now, okay? How physically active are you? I'm going to ask you 3 or 4 questions, but before you use your clickers, I also want you to record your own answers, because over here you'll just see what the audience has answered. And please be honest, because we don't know who you are when you click. But I also want you to keep track of your own answers, because I'm going to ask you to add up your score, okay, for your own self. So keep a track of your answer and click your answer right after you do that. So the first question is how physically active are you? Whether you go to a job or take care of home, do you self-report to be not very active? I spend most of my time or day sitting down. I don't have an active job, but I make an effort when I can. Or I'm very active, I'm always on the move. So write down your own answer and then click A, B, or C. How do you get the answer? Oh, I see, okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Do you need more time, or do you think you're done? Okay. Done? All right. Okay, so about 18% said not very active. I don't have an active job, but I try. about 40%, and very active 40%. Okay, record your answer. So the next question, if you were asked to objectively, oh, I can't see what's oh, sorry. Oops. No, I don't know. Okay. I'm going to just read it to you. I'm not sure why you can't read that. If you were asked to objectively and truthfully describe your current level of fitness, what would you say? Not in very good shape, that's A, not in very good shape at the moment. In average shape for your age, in excellent condition. Note your answer and click. Not in very good shape at the moment, A. In average shape for your age, B. And C is in excellent condition. Does anyone need a clicker? Even if you don't have a clicker, just make note of your own answers at least. She's coming with a few. Okay, can I move on? Sorry? Oh yeah, she wants a packet. Okay, I'm going to move on, just in the interest of time. Yes? Okay. So, okay, there you go. 67 said excellent condition, which I'm very proud of. And others said an average, but nobody said not in good shape. That's excellent. Okay. You're on the 8th floor and you need to go to the 10th floor. A, I choose the elevator. B, I take the stairs if I'm not in a rush. C, always take the stairs. Yes? Everyone clicked? Okay, I'm going to show you the result. Whoa. This doesn't sound real. Yeah. Looks like you all have plotted and schemed before this. Yeah. Oh, okay. There's an issue with the clicker. But okay, even if your clicker doesn't work or if something's wrong, please note your answer. So this is the last question now, I think. It says you play a sport, sorry, the second last question. You play a sport or do an active hobby, such as swimming, walking, dancing, jogging, cycling, any active hobby. A, almost never. B, about once a week. C, several times a week. Almost never, once a week, several times a week. Okay, done? I'm going to try to wrap it up really soon so we have some time for Sandy. All right, several times a week. Very, very, very engaged and active crowd. Congratulations. Okay. So are you active enough? If you have to pick up something at the store about half a mile away, do you drive, take the bus, or delivery, which is option A? Walk if it's sunny, which is B, and always walk or cycle. Yes? Drive or take the bus, walk if sunny, always walk or cycle. All right. But at this point, before I advance, I want you to make a note that for every answer that you chose as A, give yourself 1 point. For every B, give yourself 2 points. And for every time you chose C, give yourself 3 points and add up your own score. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3. Oops. No one clicked. How funny is that? Oh, I don't know how this... Okay. Always walk or cycle. Something's not right here. I don't trust this clicker technology. Okay, let's forget about it. So that's why I had a backup plan. You got to make your own score. And here, if you had 5 points, it's time to get up and move. If you had 6 to 11 points, it's not terrible, but there's room for improvement. And if you had 12 to 15 points, that was excellent. And whoever had 12 to 15 points, I'm not going to call you if you had 5 or 6 to 11, but if you had 12 to 15 points, can you please share with the group what you might do? What do you do that made you successful and excellent?
Sure. I jog 3 times a week, 3 miles.
You jog 3 miles a week. Excellent. Yes?
I quit driving.
You quit driving. Great. Okay. And actually, that's a great point, because there is association between suburban living and increased weight gain when people move from the city to suburbs. And it just really goes to show that even small steps and any small level of activity that you can do can actually really add up. Yes, I saw another hand up there.
I'm going to piggyback off of him. I don't drive anymore Monday through Thursday, and I do yoga.
Yoga and no driving. Excellent. Maybe one more person? You can say something.
I have a pedometer and I try to get 10,000 steps a day.
10,000 steps a day pedometer. Excellent. Yes.
I work out in the gym 3 times a week.
Work out 3 times a week. Excellent.
I walk a mile each way to and from work.
Excellent. And so all of this, again, the reason I'm making you give these examples is you don't need to have an expensive gym membership. Just take the elevator, walk, stop driving, all of this, and do something. It all counts and it adds up. So I also want to say that sitting time is a separate and independent risk factor for cancer, because if you go to the gym for 1 hour, but for the rest of the 23 hours, let's say, you're either sleeping or nobody sleeps for 23 hours, but either sleeping or sitting at your computer or your desk, then it's not, so physical activity is separate from sitting time because of this distribution. You can't say I'm physically active if you just go to the gym or walk once a day for 1 hour, because what's happening in the rest of the 23 hours? So like I said, it's an independent risk factor for all chronic diseases. And that's exactly what this slide is saying. Think about it, if you're sitting all the time, what does it mean? So these are just small tips to take a break, walk around, get off at the subway station one ahead, try to focus on small changes and try to, increase your physical activity. So this comes from actually a psychologist who says, you give people information, but they don't really change until it actually hits them hard in some way. And so make realistic goals. If you can't jog 3 times a week like your friend here, that's fine. What is your goal? What is it that you are able to achieve? So plan ahead for even difficulties. Oh, it's going to rain tomorrow. Well, I have a plan B. I won't rely on jogging. Or it's going to snow really heavily tomorrow. What could I actually do realistically? Go up and down the stairs? No, my knees are not good. All right, fine. I could still go and, do some yoga, for example. So this is again for you to write down when it will snow, which is the barrier. I will do yoga. So just tell yourself what those plans are. And list and post the benefits of physical activity somewhere right up on your fridge. Okay, I want to sort of end my talk and wrap up by talking about the modern food environment. Because on one hand, I'm telling you, you should do this and you should do that. But on the other hand, if you're really, really hungry at your workplace and the only thing that's available to you is junk and vending machines and some of these restaurants, what can you do? So I don't have anything too positive to say about the current food environment. So I wish I could say that that I want to end this talk in a very positive way, but that's not true. I just want to tell you that sometimes personal responsibility of what you eat may not always work, and that's why we really need to work harder to make sure that we're making the right choices, right? I come back to the ultra-processed foods. What is ultra-processed foods? Things that shouldn't even be called foods. This is an example. You have the whole food. I mean, the first one is an apple, the second one is an apple, and the third one is an apple. Kind of. Most people will say, oh, it has an apple, it's an apple, right? So and if I could have another kind of apple, which is very clarified, no fiber, high sugar apple juice. And the next one could be an apple gummy bear, those fruit snacks. All these are apples, right? So again, when I say eat foods that come from plant origin, you have to be careful because everything is from plant. but one is not as healthy as the other. And therefore, cooking, processing, storage, chemicals, everything actually counts in terms of your health. Okay. I also want to say I couldn't resist this, and I talked about this in a school and actually gave them this idea. There's a new ad in the United States, which is they want 1 million people to sample their Coke. Like sachets of, there's two varieties of this. You can get, they're selling or sending sachets of Coke, just like you have tomato ketchup. And the other one is you actually, there's a ad where you can press a button and sample the Coke. So you're not going to see ads of broccoli, spinach, quinoa, grapes, and whole grains, but you constantly see this kind of stuff. So I want to give you a broader picture of our food environment, the access, the marketing that really shape our ability to choose. I already actually talked about this. These are endocrine disrupting agents, and I just want to say that even if you had a house up in Woodstock, you're not running away from it. It doesn't matter whether you're in the city or you're somewhere far away. These are whales and sharks that were found in the UK with a lot of plastic in their stomach, and they died. So this is just an example of how much plastic we are using, and you can't get away from it. Forks, knives, again, in terms of, I'm not even talking about plastic elsewhere in your home, but in the food as well. So these are all chemicals that get into your body through the industrial food system and disrupt your hormones. I already finished telling you about this. And we do that. And we especially do that for children, But exposures start in early ages. You don't want them to break something. You can use steel, right? But parents make sure to give children plastic and such. And on a side note, that's actually contributing, among other things, to early puberty, which is a strong risk factor of cancer later in life. So I just want to end by saying, shop smart, read labels, be careful about the plastics and the chemicals. If there's something you don't understand in that label, it probably means it's not food and it's a chemical. Many of you have questions about what is organic. Organic seal is something where at least 95% organic ingredients are used. And if you can have the means to buy it, by all means do that. This is in your packets about the dirty dozen and the lowest foods with pesticide in it. So the dirty dozen is the one that you should try to buy organic if you have to make choices between what to buy organic and what not to. And it's there in your packets. And I also have it listed in this slide as to what those foods are. And then also chemicals that mess around with your hormones, all the cleaning agents, so many cosmetics and things, which is not food, but another way that you get exposed to these shampoos, cleaning agents in the house, cosmetics, all of this. Yes?
With apples, okay.
Yeah.
Is it on wax apples or wax apples that's dirty?
I didn't catch it.
Apples, no, apples. Some apples are waxed, right?
Oh yeah, I think the waxed is it's fine. It doesn't really contribute to that much. But anything that is unprocessed is the best. I just want to end with my last slide before Sandy takes over, that unfortunately, I'm not happy to tell you, but we're kind of trapped in this food environment, and there's not that much that we can do about it. So you have to really put a little bit more pressure on yourself to decide what you'll choose. And for additional resources, I really love the American Institute for Cancer Research, AICR, which has lovely educational materials for cancer patients and for all cancers, and for cancer prevention and recurrence. So I just put it up there so that you know. And with this, I'm going to step off and let... Yes?
You mentioned several times the cancer, inflammation in the body.
Yes.
But I didn't quite understand how you get rid of the inflammation. Is there a way with food?
When you lose weight, and is one way to get rid of inflammation, because the fat actually contributes to it, and fruits and vegetables are anti-inflammatory largely in nature. So I'm going to let Sandy finish hers, and then we'll come back as a panel to talk more about and answer your questions.